Research shows of the average American income, 34.5% go towards paying interest alone. That doesn't include principal, just interest. Interest on credit cards, mortgages, car loans, furniture, among other things. The recipients of that interest are the financial institutions. My name is Elridge Moore. I've been investing in real estate since I was 22 years old. I've created multiple six-figure companies, and in 2021, my partner and I started Vertical Capital, which is a private money lending company for real estate investors. And on today's video, I want to cover being on the other side of the interest equation. Instead of paying interest, how do you collect interest? Before I get into the specifics of the investment strategies of collecting interest, we first have to consider why are financial institutions like banks operate the way they do and as profitable the way they are. It's because of these four components. The four components are the vehicle, banking, borrower, and depositor. Okay, let me break it down for you. What's the vehicle? The vehicle is where the money resides. You can think of it as a vault. For banks, the money resides in their vault or the Federal Reserves. The vault helps banks provide customers with quick withdrawals while they earn interest on the money in the Federal Reserve Bank. The next component is banking. Banking is the process of lending money. We all know banks lend money in multiple ways. They lend money through commercial loans, business loans, HELOCs, personal lines of credit, and credit cards. And the list goes on and on of how banks lend money. When they lend money, they're also collecting interest on the money they lend. The third component is the borrower. This is the person or entity who you lend money to. If you ever got a loan or credit card, you are a borrower. And the fourth component is the depositor. The person or entity that deposits their money in a bank. When you are depositing your money into a bank, the bank is lending that money out to make an arbitrage, which is the spread between the amount of money they are paying you, the depositor, and collecting from its borrower. Typically, a bank will pay their depositor 1% on a checking account and up to 5% on a high yield savings account. So these are the core components of how a bank makes their money. I know we can mention bank fees, but let's just stick with the core components. When we first learned this, we needed to figure out how can we operate like a bank? How can we find a vehicle, which is the vault or our own Federal Reserve? How can we do banking, which is lending money? How do we find borrowers? How do we find depositors so they can deposit their money and we lend it out? Then we found the answer, and that's when Vertical Capital was launched, by asking ourselves, how can I? On the company level, we operate in all four components. Our vault is our index universal life insurance policy. It serves as our vault. All our profits go into our company IUL. We collect 9% interest on that money with the ability to leverage it. The second component is banking. And remember, banking is the process of lending money, and Vertical Capital is a private money lending company. If you want to learn more about private money lending, check out our free webinar. The link is in the description. The third is the borrower. At Vertical Capital, we provide bridge funding to real estate investors that fix and flip properties and buy and hold properties. And the fourth component is the depositor. Our depositors are our capital partners. We use their money to lend it out to make an arbitrage or a spread. We pay 10% and we lend out at 13% to make a spread of 3%. Now we are collecting interest just like the bank. You can do this by building a private money lending company, and you can also do this on a personal level as well. Instead of operating in all four components, what if you could do 2 out of the 4? Me personally, I operate in 3 of the 4 components on a personal level. I have my IUL, which is my vault. For banking, I lend money to Vertical Capital, the company. My borrower is Vertical Capital. You can lend money to a person or an entity. And Elridge Moore, the person, is lending to Vertical Capital, the company. I just don't have the fourth on a personal level because I don't have the depositor. Although collecting 9% on my IUL and 10% with Vertical Capital is not a bad return. Guys, it's very important to put your money into an investment and start being on the other side of the interest equation. These are the questions you should be asking yourself. How can I implement the 4 components? A more specific question, where can I deposit my money and collect interest on it? This would be considered your vote. Who can I lend money to and where can I collect interest? Your mind will start to come up with ideas. Here are some investments to consider. Note investing. I 100% believe in notes. You could do IUL policy and index funds. All are great investments to start collecting interest because you don't want to be on just the paying side of interest, so start collecting interest. Guys, if you like this video, check out how we are using these 4 components to yield stack our way to a $10 million private money lending portfolio. Check out the next video.